All right, welcome. We are here. We have done it. We have made it through 7 rounds of Swiss, and we are at the top 8, the top of the heap here at Valhalla, Seattle, our first Valhalla. Very exciting day. We got some great people in the top 8 here. We saw a great match with Carl Carfino versus the King Keffer. Both of them have made the top 8. Phil Miller has made the top 8 and is going to try to make it a four-peat. I've got Dave McMillan here as my co-commentator for this event. Dave, this I'm right. This will be if Phil Miller was to win this, this would be his fourth victory at Valhalla.
Yes. So
So he
Phil
is one.
currently has won all three Valhallas since its inception, and he took home the axe. And we have a new axe for anyone who could etch their name into it 3 times, and we'll see if Phil gets a start at getting a second axe.
That was supposed to be a longer term thing. We thought we'd have that axe for decades until someone got three, and Phil three-peated it 3 years in a row. So he's going to be looking to get back into that. Also, we have newcomers Doug Taylor and his son Andrew Taylor have both made the top 8. So we've got a really exciting top 8 for you here, guys. A lot of people who we saw on the earlier matches made the cut. So let's head over to the table and we will get started with this match. So this looks like we're going to have Andrew Taylor versus who I played. We got to see this in the first round, Derek Bertrand. As we've always liked to comment about, Derek Bertrand is an extremely fast player. Makes those little calculations in his head at lightning speed. Andrew Taylor, very strong player. We saw him beat Dave in a match that probably decided you not making the top 8 and him making it, Dave.
Yeah, that was quite the match. He played very well. We'll see how he goes up against Derek, who's one of our top players. And as we talked about prior in the commentary, plays at a very fast pace and makes you make challenging decisions perhaps a little quicker than you'd like to.
Yeah, definitely can get in certain people's heads, but we've got an interesting start here. So Derek's got three teamworks, one of the most powerful cards in the game, but you don't like to see a ton of them. Then on the other side of the table, he's looking down the barrel at an 11 from Heroes for Hire and an 8 discard a place card from Juggernaut. Now he's running Wundagore Mountain, like a lot of the other people have been. He's got that Scarlet Witch Negate in his hand, so he can deal with one of those big hits. Andrew, we see, has a JW. He kept it hidden, which he did in the game against you. So we'll see if it catches Derek off guard. He's got that non-numerical avoid, which he opted not to place in this situation. I agree, but just to judge the card, this may be a second time we're seeing that card be a
No.
dead card.
So Andrew concedes and gives Derek the one. I think neither of them probably loved their position. If I were Andrew there, I might have bet two to see if Derek was serious about playing the match. Playing the battle.
Yeah, I agree there. He does have the defense for a power card. He's Derek's got one follow up, so we know he's going to throw a teamwork. It's a judgment call. Sometimes you want to take that risk. Sometimes at the same time, he maybe just really didn't want to see a full teamwork string come across the board. Um, but we're gonna see what we're gonna do there. So he's gonna dupe out on his 8. He's gonna dupe out on a 2 multi.
Now, Joe, let me ask you a question here.
Hmm.
Do you play multiple twos in your decks? I find that even when I'm team working pretty hard, I don't like adding the duplication odds of having two twos. And then when you duplicate on a two, I just don't know if it's a strong enough card for me personally. But I'm also not the king of team working. So I'd like to get your opinion on that.
I think it's for me a constant back and forth. When I'll play decks like my intellect deck in Columbus, I felt didn't have enough teamwork follow-ups. I felt like they kept getting stranded. So I added a 2 for this one. And I thought my teamworks, for whatever it's worth, felt like I was getting them out a lot better. But I had a game where I duped on the 2. And that one game where I duped on the 2, it was a really big deal. So I do it and then I take it away and then I go back. So I never play more than two twos and I only play 1-1, but sometimes I will just do a 1, a 2, and then start going 3-3s. It's a tough call. You hate duping on it, but having that one extra teamwork follow up is important. So we got
So
another interesting situation here.
looks like Andrew conceded and gave Derek the two. So Andrew's at 052. Derek is at 340. Um, it's interesting. I think that first battle, if I'm Andrew, I want to bet two, or I want to place that defend teammate. Oh, let's
But we got to remember, just like in your game, Andrew knows he's on a clock that benefits him. Looks as if he's not playing very many cards for Magneto, and he's
yeah,
kind of in a situation where he's just completely happy taking out Magneto. Derek makes the snap decision and gets rid of Iceman, and I think that makes sense. He's got his premier defense placed on every character and that huge one protect for Polaris placed on the home base. It's going to be an interesting fight here, but he gives up the 10 in his hand. I still think it's the right call, but ouch, that hurts.
definitely hurts to lose 10 venture with an icon from Iceman. Derek's build is, again, I think I mentioned on the prior commentary, remarkably similar to the build I took second place with in OKC, except I just haven't seen exactly how Iceman fits into the equation. Um, so, and again, I don't get to see much more here because Iceman is the one that he chose to be KO'd. So we'll see how both of those choices benefit both of these great players.
I played against it, and my gut was that he was trying to have the teammate avoids for his two guys that he cared about a little bit more. I'd have to go back and watch. I don't even remember who I went for in that game. It went so poorly for me.
Well, I guess that says something about it.
I
Uh,
think I went for Iceman. I don't really remember.
Derek bet two of his four in the middle. Andrew's really considering his options. He's got three in hand. Looks like Juggernaut headbutt, seven fighting attack. I cannot see the other two cards
I can't
accurately.
see a situation here where, regardless of what he bets, Andrew has to fight this out here. You know, he's got some big hits. He's got the reverse place, which we know is his pretty boy lockout. Also, his ability to negate. Wow, and he's gonna go with that seven and that white tiger. I think this is the fight he had to fight.
Yeah, I do agree. I think the placement slots weren't lining up for him to build up the war chest properly. And when that happens, sometimes you might be at an action or two, a disadvantage, if you will, but you almost have to fight to try to even out the board. Now, Derek, ooh, just had a wave of duplications. Looks like he had two duplicate E flows and one duplicate spell of protection for Doctor Strange.
Now, one thing to give Andrew credit for in this is he may be doing that math. He's looking down at the board saying, okay, you've got your three defensive cards. I've seen no other copies of those, and you have an eight energy. I've not seen another copy of that. You have four chances to dupe on a triplicate, and we're four hands in. He may just be calculating those odds in his head and saying, I bet I can get him to dupe, then make him fight and use up all the cards, where he's sitting on 11s and 8s and cards that don't really dupe as often. So he's got a great hand with a couple of teamworks and all his activators finally for defense, including a fifth activator placed. Derek's got some great stuff and he's a great player, but I gotta put advantage on Andrew for the beginning of this hand.
Now, you let off with the teamwork and no confusion from Polaris, or manipulate magnetism, rather, from Derek. I'm not sure how many of those he's playing, but he didn't luck into having it there. He does use the avoid from the battle site for the follow up, and he concedes. So that puts Andrew at 2-2-3. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 place cards to Derek's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plus E flow is 9 cards. If Derek can get some momentum going here, he's in a good position, but he dupes or
He drops an
unusable
ice
Iceman.
man.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's at 5-1-1. So he would have to bet three to go for the win here. It looked like Andrew had an unusable uh, Magneto special card. So up and
He
another.
drops another Iceman. So that's the other thing I bet he's doing is it's teamwork avoids a big attack and the ability to try to cherry pick off those negates when he wants to. He probably hates to see that go early, but you know, the problem with Andrew's position now is even though I think card for card he's in a more optimal position because most of his cards don't dupe, he's digging himself out of a really big hole. You know, it's getting those three cards out of the bottom is tough.
Yeah.
And Derek, I think, is just playing into it. He's building up his chest, and he knows he's got the leeway. I mean, even now, it's a 4 for the win.
Right. And he just he dodged Rays from Juggernaut and some good activators, maybe even the Heroes for Hire 11. I couldn't see what special that was.
No, the Heroes for Hire 11 is still placed. I didn't see what the other one was.
Oh, sorry, that's the 11 place. Then maybe that was a White Tiger or a JW. But
Yeah.
Derek
I
just
do.
ran through another series of duplications and unusables. So I think he might only
Yeah. I
have
mean,
five.
the event, the KOI character event is doing its job. I will say I feel like Andrew's betting a little bit more passively than he needs to. When I think he needs to his deck isn't going to punch through that shield for much longer. I think he's got to either be venturing harder or just at least fighting the fights. He's allowing Derek to bet one and concede 3 hands in a row. Derek's gonna get himself back in this game at that point.
I agree. Now, I will say it looks like Derek only has 3 to 4 cards left in his deck. So he also might be running out of steam, at least compared to one of my 74 card behemoths. But we know Derek is known for running very trim and lean and mean decks, sometimes 51 or even 56 cards. This seems to be par for the course. It looks like he might have just 3 left in his draw pile.
He places a confusion. Andrew's gonna read it. He'll know what it is because he's playing the Jubilee version off the site. I think this might be a 51 card deck. I mean, we haven't seen him draw an event yet, but then also given the meta of Wundagore Mountain and the another Age of Apocalypse, he's probably got a no strength power cards coming. And that might also be what Derek's trying to draw into. He may have stranded one of those events 3 cards from the bottom, and he's just waiting to get that chance to shove 5 here, and Andrew's got to figure out if he's thinking of that option, or I think
Right.
he's got to fight.
Well, so it looks like Andrew bet 2, Derek bet 1, and it seems like Derek's staying. So it looks like Andrew's thinking about what to lead off with. He looks like he's reaching for the Cheshire Cat. I spoke about this in the last matchup with the King. I don't like throwing those early. I really think that placement slot is too valuable to throw out here early. So again, for instance, Derek defends with a 5, any power card from hand. I just think there's a lot of other better plays than ever leading out with your home base card.
Well, it's like you said, every placing slot is vital strategy in the game, and it's gone. Once you play that aspect, if you're not playing a home base that has a second aspect, it's not just throwing the 4, which is a great card because it can't be negated. It can't be avoided by the royal family. It's that you don't ever have a card in that placing slot. Again, you're reducing your overall ability to build the war chest.
They're
So
trading
they're just,
blows.
yeah, exactly. Trading blows back and forth. All right, this is the big swing, and Andrew will have to address this. That's a target character can attack or play specials. Now, the
Now,
tough thing about that card is when it hits, it's not just that they can't attack with the specials, they can't even use battle site cards to defend themselves. It makes them very weak to getting killed.
I'm a little surprised that Derek is fighting this one out so hard, given that he only bet 1. I know he's trying to affect placement advantage, but I also don't like that play of throwing the pin, knowing that it's going to be defended at this point.
Well, you got to remember though, he's also got that Reaver's lockout in the back, and he might have thought he could pull the Reaver's lockout and get out from under that threat. Because, like you said, he's going into Power Pack soon. Ooh, that is a risky maneuver. Well, it looks like it's a keeper.
So he
I'm
avoided
really
draw the special, and I'm not sure what he got. Looks like he got activator. And Andrew throws the battering ram at Doctor Strange, which Derek needs to use the royal family to avoid that.
he's gonna hope here that he's gonna desperately try to take out heroes before he eats that 11. I'm really, really curious if he's got an event coming up in those next 2 cards because the avoid and draw, if he does, if he's counting cards and taking a 33% chance to not have it next battle, that's big. Dave, do you know on that Colossus card, does he have to make the draw or is that a May condition?
I believe it's a May, but I don't have my cards in front of me. I'm fairly sure it's a May. I think whenever you use that, you have to go and draw. I mean, tactically, I mean, because you only get one swing at that. Again, I'm just not quite sure why Derek is digging the hole this big. Again, I agree with you. Maybe there's an event coming up, or maybe
This
he's just
this
running out
move,
of steam.
I don't agree with this play at all. He's got two usable teamworks, and Derek seems to be fighting this fight. I mean, luckily he negated it, but he would have locked that teamwork down on Heroes for Hire. I would have thrown that teamwork and just let him use up the confusion and then had the other teamwork available.
Right.
Sometimes I think and you can, I'm interested in your thoughts on this. Sometimes people don't throw a card when the defense is out there. I feel like if you don't go after them and make them use the defenses, you just build them up and they become useless or start to duplicate.
Yeah, that happens a lot with any heroes, particularly when you play Grim Reaper, formerly known as Power Leech. Um, you see a defense there and you start to think, well, I can't throw it because you want it to hit. And I understand that logic. I do this myself all the time. But like you said, sometimes you just have to go through the opponent's defense. You have to go through those negates so that hopefully a later special can be the one that hits. Now, this is just such an interesting battle for me because it, it was Andrew who bet the two and Derek who bet the one. And so I'm just very interested in why Derek has chosen this battle to be, a red line. He's really drawn the line that he doesn't want to give up this battle. Maybe it's that he feels his deck's running out of steam and this
I
has
mean,
to
he
be
knows
the last
he's
man.
he knows he's in power pack in two cards. He might think it's all or nothing here.
Right. But if so, then I really feel like you have to bet two there, right? It's
More than the one. And see,
yes.
again, I just disagree. I don't agree with this. I think I know he's got also has the E flow, so he can get around that seven if he wants to. I think you
Right.
got to make him use up the confusion.
I agree.
Now, Derek got really lucky here having the or lucky. He drew the card and was a keeper. So having that extra card in hand here is huge, where he's most likely going to hit with this eight. We know he's going to be able to defend the eight with the E flow. Um, and still another situation here. If he throws the teamwork and lets the confusion eat it, he actually gets to see Derek's last card before he makes any decisions about anything.
Right. Derek throws the seven energy in hand against Juggernaut. It hits. Uh, Andrew retorts with a six strength. I don't believe that's for the KO. No, that puts him at 19.
19.
And it looks like Derek pulled out the win there. So that does slow Andrew's momentum, being able to bet for the win while Derek's going into power pack. So maybe that was a great play by Derek. I'm just surprised that if you do that, you wouldn't bet two. Because now Derek, it looks like, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, he's at 4-3-0.
He's at 4-3. I'm curious. I'll have to go back and look and see if it just came by really fast. I did not see a I didn't see an event here. So Derek might be doing his 51 card build. He really likes to play a low number of cards. Like I think I only saw two royal families and two of the E flows. I think what he's doing is he's playing 51 cards, but he's leaning on the fact that Polaris has two defensive cards to play four of those. So he can get a 51 card really lean build. He knows he's got a very low chance of duplicating on any draws. But as you're seeing, he does run out of steam just a little bit faster than the opponent. So where he was six cards into his power pack, six power cards, Andrew was only one. Had Andrew been able to pull out the venture when that last battle, that could have put Derek in a really rough position.
I agree. Looks like Derek bets only one of his three in the middle. Andrew bets two from the top. And Derek's leading with that eight energy, I believe, for the kill on Juggernaut.
He looks like he's got an eight. It looked like he had a Quicksilver in hand too, so he might have another avoid.
Yeah. Ooh.
Ooh, the big 11 to venture, but takes out the Inhumans. And
Now,
again,
Inhuman at this point is just a grid because he's almost in the power pack, and Doctor Strange had backed up that 8. So for Derek, that might have not made him too worse for wear. I'm again surprised that Derek is betting 1 and fighting so hard. But hey,
And
he's in the playoffs and I'm not, so what do I
exactly. I think this is one of those situations also where I might have saved that 11 to just throw it on the site. Like that's 11 venture. You know,
I agree.
this we're getting later in the game where any off-color hit is going to take out the Inhumans. I don't think you need to throw that 11. You've seen their 9, you've seen their 8, you've seen Royal Families. Like he's in the power pack, so he doesn't even matter what you've seen. It's like you said, he's just a grid.
At
Um,
that point, that's just a little bit of probably nerves. It's late in the tournament and maybe a little
yeah.
bit less experience. I 100% agree with you. The venture is worth more than that kill. That kill really
Well,
doesn't get you
and
enough at this point.
it's not even just it's an auto venture. You know, with Derek being after this hand being 100% in the power pack, there's nothing left in his deck that can stop it. So any hand Derek is going for the win, you have a free 11 venture. I mean, it's basically a hand win. The
Now,
only thing is that he might have just been worried about losing Juggernaut, not getting a chance to throw it.
right.
But even still, I think I would have thrown it at the battle site and just guaranteed this battle be a victory.
So Derek
Oh,
has the 6 to stop the White Tiger. Derek's 11 venture to 0 for Andrew, and Andrew's got 1 card left in hand. Again, if Andrew had thrown the 11 at the battle site, we'd be tied venture right now.
and I'll also like to point out, had Andrew made him use that confusion a battle earlier, like we said, he would have been able to throw the teamwork and the 7 there and win the battle.
Agreed. Sometimes you just have to punch back those kind of shell defenses. It's very annoying for someone to have a 6 or less placed and a 9 or less placed in a royal family or other master mold place, and you got to punch through them. But sometimes you just have to put your work
Well,
in the
look,
tape.
this match is the perfect example of that. He had two teamworks worth 12 venture total. He had the ability to chain attacks. He sat on them because he didn't want them to get E-flowed, or he didn't want them to get the Polaris card to confusion them. And then he ended up not being able to use either one because Juggernaut died. And now if he does play it, it's just going to get confused and they're in the power pack. So no more are coming. So he essentially just and that wasn't an avoid one. It essentially avoided two because it didn't get used.
Now, I believe both players are partially, if not fully, in power pack at this point.
They are both fully in power pack at this point. So now
And
it's a matter of slots that you can take hits in.
I'm almost surprised that neither of them placed any power cards. I don't agree with that play. I think when you're in this situation, you want to place some of your power cards and just pray that those ones that you pull forward are the missing parts of getting that like phone number, that 1 through 8 power pack hand.
Well,
Um,
the only thing I'll say about that is we see that the 8 energy is in his hand, and he might not want to reveal that he can't block the 8 on Heroes for Hire, where I'm guessing most of his 8s are actually from. Because as you can see, he's gonna die now.
Now, interestingly, that doesn't it hurts his power pack because clearly he has some strength in there, but that teamwork was dead effectively anyway.
Yeah.
So we're really at the moment of just, you know, plug and playing numbers here. Derek
This
at this
is
point might be playing just for the KO, all four
yeah.
heroes condition.
I think also too, this is a little bit of a response to losing his hero. I mean, he got lucky there with the kill. I would not have thrown that 8 as a second hit. If Derek had something that could block the 6, you're playing Doctor Strange with an 8 energy and an 8 any power. No other 8s in the deck. And if that 8 energy hits there, you might put yourself in a situation where you're facing a guy with 3 to 4 8s in the deck, probably 3 the way Derek builds it, and you only have one. Um, but he did get the kill. He won the venture. So that actually worked out. And now we're in a strange on strange fight. Derek clearly has the advantage with his main type being energy, and he'll probably get 8s more often. But a lot of times if you can't close the game this fast, there's a lot of it that just comes down to variance. How many dupes are they gonna get? You know, Derek's got two, not a lot.
It's interesting because we're in the quarterfinal and we have an hour long clock and we're just I'm not sure how many minutes in. Is this 20 minutes in?
Probably maybe a little longer.
And because we're playing with Derek Speedy 51 and Andrew's been matching his speed, they are both fully in power pack. We're down to one hero. So we're not talking about any teamworks, any battle site cards. This is just the strange, spooky action of power pack play. You do see
mm,
that Derek placed his one intellect there on Doctor Strange. Again, I agree with that play. You need to carry those low power cards to try to get one hand to line up 1 through 8. But I also am surprised he didn't carry a one or two placed in the prior battle.
well, I also think Derek knows the math of his power pack since he's playing less. And he knows he didn't draw a dupe 8, so he knows there's an 8 the next hand. He doesn't have to worry about it. He also knows it's very unlikely that Andrew will get an 8 next hand because he's going to draw close to a full hand. He also is in a situation where Andrew had to discard the 7 strength into the dead pile. So yeah, I think he's just because of the deck build, Derek's going to be in a much more advantageous position. Now, if Derek's smart, he's going to let that hit, which he does.
Derek has two cards or one.
Derek has 1.
So I'm not sure what he's thinking about, right?
I think is it his turn or is it Andrew's? I think it's Andrew's turn.
Does Andrew have any cards in hand? I was pretty
No,
sure.
I think he's just deciding if he's going to pass here or not. And I mean, I think it's an 8 in Derek's hand. I think he just takes the hit and steals an 8 out of Derek's deck as well.
Yeah.
It was a 7, not an 8. So he puts Derek even a little bit more in the hole. Oh no, he doesn't. It's a tie because of Derek's home base. That's why they're not moving the missions.
Oh, Omniverse. Okay.
And that's what you see those. It's also rough that first time through your power pack when you have a deck like this. It's primarily strength. You know, he hasn't even noticed yet. He's also got to get rid of the 6 brute force. He's got a duplicate 5. He's going to get rid of the any power.
Now, did Derek dupe any there, or does he have the phone number?
I didn't notice. It looks like there's a new 8 on top, so I think he's duped on at least one. But I think you're going to see Derek bet for the win here.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think he's got a pretty good shot of pulling it off. Look, Andrew played a great game. I think maybe I'd say he was just maybe like 5% more aggressive. You know, he played really smart, overpower, really conservative. I wouldn't say he made any mistakes. It's just a question. That's the other part of overpower is once you get mechanically good at it, it's getting that feel versus the deck you're playing of when you can be aggressive and when you can't be aggressive.
Right. I mean, if there was a mistake, it was just when Derek bet one in the first hand and Andrew got to reply. I think he should have bet two, and saw if Derek folded to him, because Derek was really showing three teamworks with only one complete. I think most veteran players will get that feel that you don't really have the juice. Sometimes you have to, we just talked about this the last match. Sometimes you can make a mistake to convince yourself that your defense is better than it really is. And I think Andrew was being disciplined, not tricking himself to believe that that protect teammate
Yeah.
was any
And
good,
that
but he also should have probably bluffed a little more there.
yeah. So Derek just exhausted his hand. He threw out the 6, which was for the kill. Interesting thing to note there, the situation they were in where Derek had hit with an 8 power card right off the bat. Even if Andrew had killed Derek's team, when you go to the end of the battle and figure out who wins, the first thing you check is did someone win on missions? So Derek, even if his character died, he would have won on missions, moved his missions all to the completed missions pile, and he would have had a karmic victory. And that kind of represents with superheroes. Sometimes even if they die, they sacrifice themselves to complete the mission, or a villain, it gets taken out, but their criminal plan still succeeds. And that's one of the things that's interesting about Overpower is you can lose your team and still win the mission in certain circumstances, and that was one of them. So Derek knows that rule very well. He knows that hitting with that 8 first means not only does Andrew have to generate 8 venture, but would then have to kill him for he'd have to win the venture and kill him that battle once the 8 hits, which pretty much over at that point.
Yeah. Great game, great match by both players. Two really interesting decks, and I think very interesting power pack interaction for anyone who hasn't played these tough matches in power pack. You might even want to go rewind this a little bit and just rewatch how they played. It's a challenging space, and I think both players played a great match.
Yeah, and congratulations to Andrew Taylor. I don't even know how he's Doug Taylor's son, so I don't even know if he played much back in the day, but he certainly showed up at this tournament and made a name for himself, in the words of Gambit. So we'll be really looking forward to seeing him in Boston and seeing how far he can go. Making the top 8 in a field with the competitors that were at Seattle, your first tournament out is very impressive. So hats off to you, Andrew, and looking forward to hosting you in Boston and seeing if you can repeat the magic that you made here.
And I guess we'll get to see what Derek does going forward to the semifinals. Derek's a fantastic player. We'll see whether he can knock off one of the other top players to secure a spot in the final.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. And we will see you in the semifinals.